Hey everybody, it's Monday. We are back from Wizard World at OhioCon. It was a pretty good show overall for the weekend. It was not bad. Lots to talk about, so I'll try and get in here as soon as possible. The celebrity factor I was concerned with. While they did get top billing, which is kind of typical of the Wizard shows, and they were front and center when you came into the hall, annoyingly so because it did block traffic a bit, they weren't overpowering. Only 3 of the people seemed to be attracting much attention. James Marsters from Buffy, Adam West, and Burt Ward. Doug Jones actually got a surprisingly large, not like large lines, but there was always traffic to his booth. Nobody really cared about Gil Gerard, Buck Rogers. Nobody really cared about Claudia Christian from Babylon 5. Mark Metcalf, the guy who played the Master on Buffy, he got some of the Spike overflow, but nothing much. They were more of a presence than the celebrities had been in the past at Mid-OhioCon, but not nearly as overwhelming as they had been at some of the larger Wizard Worlds. So it wasn't that bad. The dealers, the volume and the variety of dealers was improved, at least over the transition Mid-OhioCons between Price and Wizard. I'd say they were probably right on par with the Price conventions. Some ways were better, some ways worse. There was a pretty wide variety of vendors. The return of dedicated clothing vendors was nice. There weren't like any t-shirts at all for the last year or two. Variety of toy vendors, and a good mix of high-end comic vendors and straight up 50 cent, 25 cent bargain bin comic vendors. So that was kind of cool to be able to pick and choose what you looked for. Even bouncing from one booth to the next, seeing something for $2 here, seeing it for 50 cents here, which is more my price range. So it was pretty good. One thing I do want them to crack down on is all of the bootleg DVD vendors. I mean, they were just blatant. There was one time on Sunday I was standing and going to the hallway, and there was a Wizard employee standing right outside one of these booths that was selling blatant bootlegs. These weren't like imports, they were just copies. And I'm not saying that I haven't downloaded a song or two that I shouldn't, or played a game that didn't really. I ran on an emulator, but I'm not selling them to the masses at a convention which is supposed to celebrate the fans and more, I guess, respect the creators. So if they can kind of take a stand and say, hey, if we see you selling these DVDs, you're out. You're at a convention where your biggest celebrity draw is a guy from Buffy, and then there's a vendor around the way who's selling the last episode of season 7 as like a special edition DVD. It's just like you printed the label on an inkjet. It's just a bootleg. There were a lot of fan films where people would be making things, posting them on their own websites, putting them on YouTube, and these guys just steal them all, put them on one disc, burn it, sell it. Get those guys out, and I'll be much happier with what you guys are doing. Excuse me. I actually just tried the Dave's Hot and Juicy hamburger. I've been trying to figure out when I wanted to give that a shot. Figured today was worthwhile. Quick review of the hamburger. I like mine fairly plain, mustard and ketchup only, so there was no cheese, lettuce, onion, whatever. I took half the new stuff off. It essentially tasted like a bigger single. It was about the same amount of beef, just thicker. Similar, I guess, to Sonic. Nothing special. Don't worry about it. If you're getting something there already, just stick with what you normally get. The Artist Alley, despite some glare from the sun for the folks in the back, it was pretty cool. There was a good variety of artists. Some of the big names, Phil Jimenez, Gerald Perel, Chris Sprouse, a lot of small press folks, some indie folks, and then also just some random artists. So that was kind of cool. A good variety in styles. I say variety a lot. A good cross section of styles. Some cartoony stuff, some photorealistic stuff. 2 people who I really dug while I was there. Sara Richard and Eliza Frye. Got some really neat sketches from those two. Both of them, I guess coincidentally, are painters, I guess by trade. Really good stuff. I like their style, so I want to give a special kind of shout out to those guys. I'll try and put a link to their sites in the description below. If you get a chance, check them out. I was glad to see them coming to a show. I know that at least Eliza was from the West Coast, and she flew all night to get in, so it was cool to see them there. There are some folks who I just get tired of. I see them every con, and I don't really care for their stuff or their attitudes. So if Wizard can get them to stop bugging them, that'd be great. And so that means, you know, no, I don't want to buy one of your mass-printed sketch cards of people with giant heads. Just go away. I don't like them. Stop asking. Not all of my sketches came out as I had hoped. Some of the stuff you see there are on display and it looks really good, and then you get your sketch back and it's like, so probably about 60-40, something like that. Ratio good to bad. One of the artists I got a sketch from, a cute girl named Mina Sanwald, I believe, agreed with me that the Phoenix Wright Professor Layton crossover is a system seller for the 3DS before I'd even mentioned it. She even actually wanted to put a picture of Phoenix Wright in the background of the Jean Grey Phoenix sketch she did for me. That's what kind of started the conversation, so Nintendo, make it so. Cosplay. There was definitely a lot more cosplay than there had previously been, even at just the older price convention, so that's a plus. You know, bring those folks in, that's cool. But I am tired of the fucking 501st. I know Star Wars is the big nerd thing, whatever. I never really cared for it, and I really don't care for where they had them placed in the convention hall. It just blocked traffic. People want like, oh, I want a picture with an overweight stormtrooper. Oh, look, it's another slave lamb. I guarantee people lost business from having them stationed right there. They would constantly be blocking this flow of traffic, and so I didn't go over that. I specifically avoided that area because I didn't want to deal with waiting for people to take stupid pictures. Overall, I think I heard some of the artists saying that they liked the energy of this con better. You know, the room, as opposed to being a sterile sort of warehouse format, you know, had a nice carpeted floor, had this really nice sort of light cascade across the ceiling and little rainbow colors. Music playing, loud enough for you to hear it, but not too loud to drown out conversation. So it just kind of felt more comfortable. It wasn't as bad as I was actually expecting. I was pleasantly surprised. It's not like 100% approval, but it gets a thumbs up. It was a successful con, so kudos to you, Garib Seamus, or whatever the hell your name is. He didn't fuck up too bad. Of special note, my friend George, who was there with me, got chatty with one of the Suicide Girls. There was, I guess she's a prospective Suicide Girl, named Pettis. She wasn't fully accepted yet. I guess she's still probationary or what have you. And she had placed on the Mid-Ohio-Con ticket page a little reference to, you know, hey, I'll be there on such and such a day. You'll be totally crushing on me. And when you see me in my Siren from Borderlands outfit. So I followed her, linked to the Facebook page, and checked her stuff out. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, George, this girl's going to be here. We got to keep an eye out. And so sure enough, on Saturday morning, maybe early Saturday afternoon, we're walking past the Suicide Girls booth, and I'm like, George, that's her. Now, I hadn't been taking any cosplay pictures, no Pona pictures, but George had been. So I said, you know, go talk to her, ask her if that's who she is, and get her picture. He goes up, and I don't know if there's just too much noise or she's focused very much on the Suicide Girl aspect of thing. He asked her if she was the Siren, and she said no, blah, 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 whatever. We go away. I apologize for screwing him over. He's all embarrassed for asking the wrong question, and we get all the way across the convention hall. She comes running after with one of her friends. And gets in front of George, like, what did you just ask me? You know, repeat your question. And he repeats, you know, were you dressed up as the Siren from Borderlands? You know, so you look like. She goes, oh, yes, I apologize. I thought you were asking about another Suicide Girl named Siren. She's like, no, I'm Pettis, but that is my costume, blah, blah, blah. You're the only person all day to recognize it. And I felt like, shit, I recognized it. And I cheated and read it on her webpage. But she wanted to get her picture taken with George, and, you know, thank you for recognizing me. It was pretty funny, and she gave me a little invite to the Suicide Girls party that night. I just want to take credit for that because that was entirely me. All in all, good deal. A couple quick notes here. An Apple question. Since we're just now apparently getting a lot of Apple stuff for the missus. FaceTime to FaceTime. My wife has the MacBook Pro and the iPad. She was in Texas with the child, and they wanted to call up and do FaceTime with me here. And so, since her MacBook and iPad are both tied to her Apple account, her Apple ID, it wouldn't let her call from the same Apple ID to the same Apple ID. I didn't know if maybe we needed to set up my Apple ID from when I actually used iTunes or whatever on both machines, so it would be easy for us to call one another, or if there is a way for the same ID to contact itself. Anybody who uses Apple has a tip on how to call within the same family, within the same account or what have you, let me know. One last one here, fantasy football note. I surprisingly actually might have a shot of pulling out the win tonight and going to 6-1. I have like a 30-some point lead. I'm expected to get 4 or 5 more points tonight. Brokaw is expected to only get like 20 or so. So I could legitimately pull this out and enjoy one more week of sole possession of the leadership of the IHC, which would be great. Just to, you know, lord that over all the people who actually know anything about football, because my only interest comes from fantasy football. But fingers crossed for that. Hope you all had a good weekend. I'll try and get some of the footage from the con up here shortly. Maybe upload some of the sketches to either this page or DeviantArt. Until then, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. This is the best booth of the convention. Completely empty, just a chair with some bags on it. Brought to you by Thrill Me Entertainment. That's awesome. What do you think, George?
I think it's exciting.
This is, yeah, pretty fantastic planning on their part. That's good shit.